you're a big scientist, and you moved here just to work on that. Could you tell us why?
Well, should I say I felt the limitation of the capitalism?
Всем привет, дорогие друзья! С вами подкаст «Битый час» и его, к сожалению, один бессменный ведущий Артем. Мы врываемся во второй сезон очень нестандартным форматом. Сегодня у нас будет выпуск на английском языке, поэтому наслаждайтесь. Доброе утро, добрый день, добрый вечер, доброй ночи. Я здороваюсь с каждым из вас. А у нас в гостях... I just really needed to ask you one question before the shooting. What is the right way to pronounce your name and your second name? And how can I
Tadamasa Sawada. But Tadamasa is Imya and Sawada is familiar.
Okay,
but
so
you
how can I
just,
call you?
You can call me Tada.
Ah, really? Okay, so you can call me Toma then. I think it would be great dialogue. So, сегодня у нас в гостях Tadamasa Sawada. Hello, thank you very much for coming to us. It's a big pleasure to talk to you today.
Очень приятно. It is my pleasure.
So yeah, that is your camera, and if you have some kind of monologue, you can just tell it to the camera and not just to me. So yeah, you have 2 points to concentrate on. So could you please tell us a few words about yourself and introduce yourself to our viewers? It's our tradition.
Well, so I'm originally from Japan. I got a PhD in Tokyo Institute of Technology, and after that I went to the United States. I had been a postdoc in 3 universities in the United States for 8.5 years, and then I came to Moscow to be an assistant professor. So
how many years have you spent in Moscow by now?
7 years.
7 years in Moscow. Yeah. Wow, beautiful. So as I heard before the shooting, you speak Russian a little bit. How is it? Do you find it hard to learn for you?
First, I need to admit that I'm a bit lazy.
Oh, really? Okay.
I tried to learn, but recently I'm too busy for writing and so on. So, forgive me.
Well, it's quite understandable because you work in science, and for you, Russian is not the first language to study things, to research something.
This is true for everyone, so I do not use this as an excuse.
Well, right. So, but it's still understandable. Speaking about your academic life, you had a postdoc in USA, is that true? So could you please tell us a little bit about the field of studies of your bachelor degree, of your master degree, and the postdoc?
Well,
starting from the very beginning,
yes,
from
very
Tokyo,
beginning.
from Tokyo, right?
Yeah, yes, Tokyo. So from bachelor, from undergraduate training, I was in Tokyo Institute of Technology. For bachelor degree, it was, I could say, computer science.
Oh, really? Wow.
And then, some unexpected events happened. And I started working with a professor who is something between psychology and computer science. The name of the field is called vision science. So studying vision.
It's not computer vision, right? It's a vision of human, right?
Yes, but it's partly related with also computer vision.
Okay.
Nowadays, it's mostly dominated by neural network, machine learning, and so on. But especially in early time, computer vision people tried to learn also from human vision. Tried to imitate they tried to learn a lot from human vision. So they were closer to one another. And also it's of course closely relevant with optics, eye doctors, and also computer graphics. So it's a very multidisciplinary field, and then I started working with that professor. So this is how I started working on some vision science, which is related with psychology, computer science. I got a PhD there.
So you actually met some kind of mentor who actually brought you in such a cross-field science, right?
Right.
Oh, okay. So, and you also said that, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but again, so you say that computer vision specialists in machine learning actually work closely to research something new with people who actually studies humans vision, right? Wow, I didn't know that, because I actually interested in machine learning, and my minor is on machine learning, but I never knew that, and that's interesting.
Even still now, deep neural network and so on, some people tried to associate, that neural network structure with the human brain. I do not know whether it is really true or not, but how they are close to one another. But then, still there are some people who are trying to associate between them.
So yeah, moving on from bachelor's degree, you went to USA straight out of them. True?
Right.
Yeah.
So
you got
after getting a PhD.
after getting PhD in Tokyo, right? Okay, and you went in USA, and what sort of field were you researching?
Well, in the first two places, psychology department, and then the last place, optometry, eye doctor.
Okay, I get it. So you spent 8.5 years.
8.5 years.
Researching that.
It's
really
long.
Yeah, it's a long time. And what is so hard to understand for a Russian person who actually thinks, an average Russian person thinks that it's better to work in America than in Russia, and you actually moved here, and that is quite cool for me as a patriot, because it's like you're a big professor, not a professor, I'm sorry, you're a big scientist, and you move here just to work on that. Could you tell us why?
Well, should I say I felt the limitation of the capitalism? I'm joking.
All
I'm joking.
All right. Well, that's still a reason. I mean that's understandable to my mind.
Well, first of all, I do not mind where I work. The most important thing, what I always say, is working with smart people.
Right.
Especially if I work in universities, I want to work with smart students. So I, of course, applied for many American universities, but at the same time, I applied to many other universities all over the world. As well as these universities look good, I sent applications. And one of them was sent to HSE. They invited me to Moscow for an interview, and then they gave me an offer. That's it.
Well, that's nice. It's actually it's as simple as wandering along Headhunter and watching if there are some positions you can apply for, and you have the same path. That's not. It's just interesting to hear. Well, it's very interesting to talk about what you work on, but we just want to step aside a little bit,
okay,
and then we'll come back for sure. Since I've been learning English like any other HSE student for a long time, I've heard that in psychology there is a statement that a person's mind, a person's person can differ a little bit depending on what language he speaks. Have you ever thought about it? Have you ever mentioned it about yourself? That when you speak Japanese, you behave a little bit different from when you speak English. Have you ever experienced that?
I understand, and I'm not in that field of psychology, but for my case, I clearly feel it.
Well, I'm not talking about the scientific side. Yeah, just about personal experience.
Yeah, don't worry. So when I speak Japanese, I feel I'm more pessimistic.
Really?
And negative. When I speak English, I'm more optimistic, active, and maybe more brave, more arrogant occasionally.
Wow. Well, because I mentioned it about myself, I've always felt like I'm a bit more polite when I speak English.
Okay.
That's very interesting because I think it depends on the content we actually have. Speaking in English or in Russian. In Russian, I deal like with everything like around myself, like with bad people, or for example.
Well, you could say everyone.
Just with everyone, right?
The same here.
Yeah, pointing out. Okay.
When I talk, I speak Japanese. Then, in history of my life, I talked with everyone in Japan.
Yeah. So I understand what I mean. And when I speak English or I hear something in English, I listen to a lecture or I watch Formula One or I watch some movies which are usually quite polite as well. So yeah, I just mentioned it for myself, and I was really interested if you have like the same thing. So yeah. Speaking of Japan, of your home country, there is a very famous designer and traveler in Russia whose name is Artemy Lebedev. Maybe you know him?
Could you say again?
Artemy Lebedev. Well, it's alright if you don't know him, but the fact is that his favorite country is Japan, and there is even a quote that Japanese people have taught how to feel the most joy from the life. Like better, they do it better than any other nation in the world. Could you relate? Is that true?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, of course, so it's exotic country, exotic place, and many people find some different aspect of that country. Compared with their own culture. So, for that Russian person, it may be a point. I am not very sure.
All right. But what's also so interesting is that I actually remember an interview with a Russian scientist who works in Koltech, and his name is Konstantin Batygin. And he spent like 2 or 3 years of his childhood in Japan, and he told a story that there was actually a lesson in his school where he was told to draw one symbol or one hieroglyph, or how do you call it?
Chinese characters.
A Chinese character, one Chinese character in a whole hour. So you could not even draw it, like you could just lie down and sleep or something, or you could just work it out perfectly for 1 hour. And he actually said that he was absolutely surprised with that, and he couldn't just deal with it because he was a bit too nervous, because he didn't know like how could they spend time like that for like 1 hour. Is that true about Japanese schools?
Yes, I understand what he or she meant. Calligraphy, Chinese calligraphy.
So there is such subject in Japanese school?
Maybe a single character in the first class, maybe 2 or 3 characters, and then they try to draw letters, write letters in a very beautiful manner.
Wow. And so the majority of Japanese kids are fine with that?
Need to practice.
Wow. Well, I think that is the degree of some sort of calmness or whatever you can say that.
Maybe like you could say like something like Zen.
Wow, yeah.
Or something.
Exactly.
I am not so sure. It is very what should I say? So in different cultures, there are always something to evaluate education level of people. Like how much you know Shakespeare, or I don't know United Kingdom, but then something like this. Dostoevsky, or these famous novels in Russia, and depending on how much you know these novels, you could evaluate cultural level, education level of people. And then in Chinese cultural area, I could say not only in Japan but also Korea, China, writing skill, writing very clear letters, beautiful letters, is important part of evaluating education level.
Really? So, depending on how good person's writing, they depend on the educational level, really?
People pay a lot of attention to this.
Pay attention. Oh wow, that's amazing to hear. Well, look, so actually, I have an awful handwriting, and like the majority of my teachers when I was in school couldn't understand the word, and they just. I remember walking out of school, and some of them were like, "Artyom, come back," because I don't know what you've just written. Well, some of them just put a bad mark for that. Well, some of them just gave me a chance. So yeah, I just had to change it completely.
I have one good news for you.
Really?
Usually in Japan, engineering students are poor at writing.
Yeah, so I'm where I should be. So okay, yeah. So
and I'm also poor at writing.
Oh, really? So yeah, I feel you. Okay, so speaking of your well, heading back to your education and your scientific experience. It's a very interesting way of getting to an area like psychology and working on it, having a technical background, a STEM background. I think I can call computer science.
Computer science, yes.
It is STEM, right?
Yes.
Okay, so have you ever felt that it actually helps you a lot to be aware of something a bit biased in today's society, you know, because psychology is always like meant to be something quite opposite to computer science or for example STEM or something like that. Have you ever felt that it really helps you to work? Really?
Yeah, very. I mean, well, it depends on which part of psychology you talk about.
About your field of work.
Yes, so in my field, as I mentioned, it's called part of psychology, but then human vision, studying human vision, and then think about, for example, related with my field, head-mounted display, virtual reality or something, and then a question: how much should we make, screen, visual field larger? How much should we increase resolution? How much should we minimize the delay? Of course, we know wider visual field is better, higher resolution is better, and shorter delay is better, and shorter latency, and then higher frequency, refresh rate is better. But then how much should we increase these parameters, improve these parameters? So then, if we cannot distinguish, for example, 1,000 frames per second and 2,000 frames per second, they are too fast, and human cannot distinguish. Then, should we improve further? The answer is clearly no.
Yes, certainly not.
It's a human interface.
Because it would be like more expensive, right? So you can do it cheaper, and like human brain would not spot the difference.
Right. Then it's nonsense. And then how we can measure this threshold? So this is one of the topics in my field.
Well, yeah, that actually makes sense.
So I mean, it's psychology, but then we use psychological techniques, and at least in my field, or some part of my field, we regard our visual system like an existing machine, and we are measuring performance of the machine.
That actually makes sense. Right?
So the closest idea from your viewpoint is reverse engineering.
Yeah. I heard about this idea, but I just couldn't really touch it and understand it by myself, because I haven't made anything like engineeringly. But I get your point of view. All right. Speaking of virtual reality and VR helmets, by the way, have you ever played VR games?
Some, yes.
For example, with PS4 or PC?
Not really. Not really. I went to some kind of exhibition of virtual reality games, and then played there for a few hours. And I also bought one device, Oculus something, some portable.
Oculus Rift? Or not?
Probably, yes.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, I do not have time to play with it.
Okay.
But
Well, maybe it could have been like, some kind of a professional interest for you, just to actually see what's popular, what people play related to virtual reality. Maybe it could give you like some food for thought, what to improve in some virtual reality. I was just interested. So I don't play VR as well, so yeah, I can relate. I also just remember the fact. It has nothing to do with what we speak about, but I drive a Japanese car. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah, Nissan.
Спасибо большое.
Well, спасибо вам, because it's actually quite safe and cool and reliable. So yeah, heading back to what we're talking about. Do you know that actually in HSE there is a laboratory of 3D visualization and computer graphics? It is based here. On the second floor.
If I understand correctly, led by Alexei Lorich, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Alexei Yurich, he's on the second floor.
Yes, I know.
Have you ever partnered with them?
We have been talking about working together for a few years. 2 years ago, I supervised a pair of students for their undergraduate thesis project.
So how was them?
They were very smart. And now my colleague in psychology department, just a moment. So in that project, they developed augmented AR device.
So they built a device, right?
The build device for some psychotherapy.
Really?
And now my colleague in psychology department is running an experiment using that device.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. Really? So it was built by MEM students,
right?
Supervised by you, and now in psychology device, it's really used for some research?
Right. They are testing how useful that device is.
Wow.
The device, psychotherapy is about zoophobia or animal phobia. So
what is it about?
Some people are afraid of a specific type of animal very much.
Specific types of animals? Really?
So some people extremely hate like spider.
Yeah.
Some people extremely hate snakes. Of course, usually we do not like these animals, but then for some people it's extreme. They become panic.
Yeah, that's a bad thing.
And I mean, as far as we live in Russia, Moscow, we do not need to worry about snakes, but then for spider, they are everywhere.
Yeah,
so to mildize, gentrify this kind of phobia, there is a therapy called exposure therapy. So gradually showing these animals, scary animals, to patients, participants, so that they become used to these animals.
Oh yeah, that's really interesting. So, are there any results?
I do not know.
Okay, okay. So we'll figure it out soon, I guess.
I hope so. I am checking the progress of that project, but now I'm away from that project. So I'm not a psychotherapist, so I shouldn't talk a lot about zoophobia.
Well, okay, that's reasonable. So could you please tell us a few words about some of your current projects and what you are working on, what are you researching, what are your interests right now?
So as I mentioned, we study, for example, some limitations of visual system, like maximum refresh rate, which we can distinguish visual field, resolution, and so on. And the problem is that, and we also measure ability to perceive things as they are, like recognizing faces and so on. A problem is that these experiments are usually conducted in only laboratories. So laboratories means everything is clean, every noise is minimized, and try to change only specific factor to observe how that factor affect visual perception.
So, for example, like sunshine or specific air, like from different areas, so it's impossible to check the change in laboratory, true?
Well, for example, like reading text printed on a piece of paper. In one condition, letters were written in black on a white piece of paper. And then the other condition, letters are red. And which one is easier to read?
So you asked me, right?
Well, I'm not asking. So this could be a task.
It could be, okay, yeah.
And then what kind of colors we should use? For example, for alert sign. If red text could be read in the same way as black text, and also it attract more attention of human vision. I mean our mind. Then it's better to use red letters, something like this. I just made a random story.
Oh yeah, okay, that's a great example actually.
And in the laboratory, these two conditions must be compared under the same condition. So the illumination is controlled, and we show red text and black text alternatively or in random order, so that you wouldn't have any practice effect. So this is a laboratory condition. But then in reality, it's not really true. Everything is so noisy. And we use a constant illumination condition, but then outside illumination changes constantly.
Yeah, that's true. Like it's always moving a little bit.
Right. And just getting inside of the room, suddenly illumination level becomes much lower compared with outside, especially in sunny day. So then we want to test these, how. Let's imagine that there is some difference between black letters and red letters in the laboratory.
Yeah.
And then we do test the same thing outside. Maybe outside everything is so noisy, so this small difference may not mean anything.
Okay.
Or maybe still this difference is important, or could be even magnified.
Okay, so yeah, that's what you actually work on right now.
So
a small piece of what you work on right now. Yeah?
Not at all. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. So I'm using augmented reality device for generalization.
Okay.
Generalization. Yeah. So in a laboratory controlled environment, and do we observe some phenomena, and how much this phenomena could be outside of the laboratory. Let me tell one example, real example. So we could perceive, recognize objects, shapes of objects from drawings.
Yeah.
Painters practice a lot of drawings, right, with only a piece, pen.
Yeah. Okay.
So, question. So, but then these drawings are usually static. They do not move.
Yeah.
We could see cartoon animations, but then, so yes, so we could perceive shapes of objects and so on from drawings. And then question, okay, so drawings are fine, but how much we could live outside of the laboratory with only drawings? We see everything as drawings. If I move my head this way, that way, then the scene changes, the visible part of the scene changes, but then still everything is represented as a counter drawing.
Oh yeah, that's actually true.
And can we recognize people, our friends, how food taste, look like, or how well we can walk, navigate in the city? So this is what we tested using augmented reality device.
Yeah, so you actually think that what we see is a constant movie with the high bitrate, well, with a great frequency. Yeah.
And then with in real time.
In real time.
Real
yeah,
time.
true.
So under this condition, how much we can live in the real environment. This is what we tested. So this way we could generalize our observations in the laboratory to outside.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have some sort of philosophical question to you in that concern. That nowadays people play video games way more than before because they actually exist. And for some people, virtual reality, well, not VR as we call it, like with the helmet, but the reality inside the desktops, inside their PlayStation 5, Xbox, it actually, kind of changes their approach to life, changes what they think, and it actually they live different life inside the video games. Do you think that VR helmets can actually change the actual reality one day, as it was in a film which was called, I think, First Player Get Ready? Well, I can check out the translation, but do you know this film?
Yeah, I know the title.
One eternity later.
Ready Player One. All right.
Yes.
That is the translation. Have you watched it?
I do not, but I roughly know what you are talking about.
Yeah, so it was actually, about dystopia when people lived in some, not plastic bags, but, in some containers, like for transportation, and they actually lived in augmented reality. They just wore their helmets under the ground and just played a game, which is actually their actual life. So do you think it can be? Do you think there is a possibility then that the world will come to that, or not?
This is a little extreme. Well, think about predictions we made half century ago, like in 1960s, 70s. So they draw, pictures of the world in the 21st century, how the world would look like. They predicted.
Yeah, with flying cars. And, and mirrors with FaceTime in it. Yeah, I saw that.
So yes, I mean, we know that they look funny nowadays. On the other hand, in some aspects, our technologies went far beyond their predictions. Whenever we check anything like monitors, displays, they could imagine only something CRT, very thick.
Well, yeah.
They couldn't imagine LCD.
Laptop. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So maybe some kind of dystopia, but quite likely it's very different from what we could imagine at this point.
Well, yeah. So you think it's gonna be like it's not gonna be so, but it has some part of it true in it.
Some kind of I do not know whether it's called dystopia or not. This is one possible future. The another possible future is Japanese cartoon animation, Ghost in the Shell. Okay, it's an old movie. So yeah, everyone is connected to internet. Partly, machinarize their body.
Okay, that makes sense now. All right. Like a video game called Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Do you know? Yeah.
Something like this.
Oh yeah. I just need the reference to understand what you're talking about. Okay.
So I don't know how the world look like, but then some computer assistance is becoming common. I do not use any of them, but like Alexa, I do not know.
Yeah, Alexa, Siri,
right.
Or Alisa. In Russia, it's quite popular. It's by Yandex. Do you know?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I have a Yandex station. This the small wireless talker
yes,
or whatever. Like, well, you understood. So, but I don't really talk to her. Like, it can't just substitute a human for me. So but it plays music, alright. So yeah, I listen to music through that. So yeah, that's an interesting view. I just really wanted to know if some of the dystopian predictions are true, because you actually work with that, and I have a friend who actually is very deep into robotics, and when we watched Terminator, we always had some very funny conversations about that and about the predictions. So yeah, I thought it could be great fun as well. So yeah, it's interesting to hear that it's not going to be like in Ready Player One. So yeah, I feel like way more positive with that. And speaking of some student projects, like we always talk about the scientific field, but we just step aside a little bit, like from time to time. But heading back to it, have you worked with students in United States and in Russia, and could you please compare them? Because it's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't supervise, but then I worked with some students supervised by my supervisor.
Yeah, I get it.
Difference? I think individual difference is much larger. Compared, if we take average, like staying in Russia for 10 years and then going to United States and then working there again 10 years and compare, then there could be some difference. But then probably difference between Russia and the United States is small compared with the diversity of students within Russia and within the United States.
Well, yeah, okay, I get it. So, I think it's not about being smart, because actually, I want to think that in American universities and in Russian universities, people are similar. They are also smart as well, but maybe about some human characteristics or something related only to nation or whatever. So you couldn't spot it, right?
I mean, first generation difference exists. So
well, yeah, right. You just spent 8 years in the United States and then you got to Russia. So generation changed. Yeah, that's actually true.
So when I was in the United States, communication tool was email for everyone.
All right. So
but then now, probably also in the United States, of course in Russia, also in Japan, there is some generation gap, right? People I'm now 43, and the people in my age use only email.
Oh, all right.
And the younger generation use like WhatsApp and Slack and so on.
I guess more of Telegram today for
Telegram.
Russians.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's patriotic thing. It's a little bit different. It hits different because the person who actually made Telegram is Pavel Durov, and he's Russian. So it's some kind of a patriotic thing for us to use Telegram. Yeah, it's just a big pride for us, partly. So. And it's actually better than WhatsApp for us, so that's why we use it.
I should think about installing it.
Really? Yeah, it would be great fun.
Yes.
Yeah, connect to our gang. So I have your number. I will text you. Hello.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So this generation difference is probably much bigger.
Okay, I see. Well, that's actually interesting to hear, to see.
I don't know. Sorry.
Well, it's all right. As far as we're heading to the finish, I have could you please do one thing? Could you just give a few advices to students? Because you are the person who actually started your studying in bachelor's program on STEM, and now you work somewhere in between. So you have a very interesting academical path. So could you please give us students a few advices on how to actually how to enjoy what we do and how to work on some researches or something like that? Speaking from your experience, please.
Well, so HSE students or maybe whole Russia. This is a difficult question. As far as I talk about the HSE, I want to tell students that they should understand the luxury. This luxury. So
Luxury?
luxury. So this environment is really great. Some students think about graduating from the university with taking only minimum number of courses, and then
Foreign staying alive.
right, and then find a supervisor, for writing coursework or thesis, and they will start replying to emails or telegram only a few months before the deadline.
It's great if they actually text you a few months before the deadline, just like not in the deadline day, so another week before. So
it's a horrible case. And it may be one way, but on the other hand, resources available in this university is fantastic. Not only, especially for me, devices and so on, but also people, professors. One of the most talented people in Russia are now in this university. And all students are given opportunities to work with these smartest people in Russia. And then, why don't they use this opportunity? This is what I want to tell.
okay, so
Of course, they could.
okay, yeah, that's a big thing to hear from you. That it's actually the best people in Russia, or something around that. Yeah, so it was extremely great to talk to you. Like I was really afraid that we could not find a connection, but it was all false. So
Well, you tried to do
Thank you
your
so
best,
much.
so you did your best. So
Thank you so much. Thank you as well. Thank you so much for this podcast. Hopefully you will like this, you will comment that, and maybe ask some questions. You will surely reply. Well, we'll send it to you an email.
okay,
Maybe you will. Okay,
not the Telegram at this point.
Not in Telegram. Well, just yet. Maybe one day in Telegram.
Maybe
okay.
a week or 2 weeks later. Okay.
Okay. Again, thank you so much. So this is the end, and we recorded another podcast, the first in English. Woohoo! Yeah.
Спасибо.